One or the other one. What's up, guys? What's up, possums? I'm going to go ahead and jump into my intro now because it's something that's driving me nuts. So, guys, the fantasy analysis these days is absolutely ridiculous. In the last week, I have heard that Dubs and CJ Stroud are priority waiver additions. What fucking league are those guys available in? And I've heard that you should go pick up the Titans tight end, Jonnu Smith, and then the guy went on for 3 minutes about how valuable that position is in the Titans offense. What the fuck? And I also heard the Broncos. Yeah, I also heard the Broncos are 3-1. Now, we may be wrong sometimes, but God damn it, at least we do the mental legwork to give you guys the best possible advice that we can with the appropriate information. I mean, dude, it's laughable. I don't know if Jordan is fantasy receipts or not, but fuck, if there was ever a time for something like that, it is now. These fucking people are.
All right. I do agree with you. I come in a little hot for us. I'm glad you're back from your week vacation. You've just been holding this in for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, plus I went to the Bears game and Bears Chiefs game, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you guys.
We'll get there.
I'm all kind of fired.
Yeah. We'll get there, buddy. Trust me. I feel like I wrote down some pretty upsetting things about the Bears, but just in general, like you'll see some of these things and it's like, yeah, you should pick up Puka Nacua. It's like, yeah, 3 weeks ago, like it's still on like the waiver wire. It's like only owned in 75% of leagues. And I'm like, yeah, that's not, I don't know what leagues these are. Like, is there like 16 leagues out there that they're like, yeah, I can't drop CeeDee Lamb for him, but you know, I get it, Joe. I understand your hostility and I appreciate you coming in hot like this. So, but we're here for IDP for the moment. I don't know if anyone else has any game breaking updates that we need to do right now or catch that on the other pod. But
if Roquan Smith's on your waiver wire, pick him up.
That's actually a pretty good pickup. Good note, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good thought.
But this is the IDP pod for week 5. Got a few updates. Let's go over some injuries first. The first one I want to talk about is Christian Gonzalez. Like, you know, Bill Belichick in these cornerbacks, I swear he just happens to find one every single year in the draft. This one happened to be in the first round. J.C. Jackson was a couple years ago too. He was later on. But Christian Gonzalez came in and had the last 2 weeks were just like an Icarus just flying across the sun. He flew too close, and now it looks like he's out for the season with a torn labrum. So what they decided to do was go trade for J.C. Jackson to bring him back to the Pats. I don't know if J.C. Jackson is going to be the answer. I would suggest at least spec adding him in place of Christian Gonzalez, because if they're going to utilize that position in that way, J.C. Jackson, I mean, Bill Belichick knows how to get the most out of J.C. Jackson, so I would suggest go in that direction.
Fair enough. I mean, honestly, I don't really play the whole cornerback game. There's only a couple corners I really like rostering unless you're in the cornerback specific markets. But onto the defensive backs that I kind of talk about, or at least I try to get.
Miles Bryant. I just want to throw that out there.
There's a couple out there that
he's had 26 tackles, starting with the Patriots now. He was playing a cross from not J.C. Jackson, Christian Gonzalez. Yeah, he's getting a lot of tackles. They're targeting him a lot. I don't know now that Christian Gonzalez is not there if they're going to stop targeting him as frequently, but definitely a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I was going to say one corner that I actually do have rostered in some leagues is Diamador Lenore, which is just a phenomenal name because he had 10 tackles the first 2 games, but 5 tackles since then in each game. But I mean, the corners, I'm not saying they're not valuable. I mean, Slay had 11 tackles last week. I mean, there are corners out there that can be playable. I just feel
they're
like
on the rise, man. They're on the rise.
They are. There's a lot more. But anyway, into the safety game. Jamal Adams injured again. I think it's just a concussion. Unsure status at this point. But at this point, it really just means keep firing up Julian Love. We weren't really sure what the role was going to be. I think I sat Julian Love in a league thinking, well, let's see what happens with Jamal coming back. Obviously, he was still out there on the field. But now he's back to his same playmaking that he has been the first 4 weeks. So do not worry about Julian Love. Hopefully you didn't drop him. I'm assuming people aren't that silly, but you never know because leagues can get a little tight sometimes on the bench. So,
yeah, Julian Love's been killing it. Like it a lot. Good pickup. Does he have an injury right now, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, he's perfectly healthy as far as I know. 9 tackles, 13
I'm thinking
tackles.
of Blackman. Never mind. The other Julian.
There's lots of Julians out there. Any other injury updates notable that we need to talk about here? I didn't see a whole huge list of IDP. Not that there's a whole lot of IDP news out there in the first place to give some injury updates, but just some of the notable ones there. But
one of the guys that has been injured, that Eric Kendricks, he played week 1, hurt his hamstring, he's been out, and then they kind of had him like a soft rebound last week before going to their bye this week. You should try to acquire him in whatever league he's in. So his manager's sick of it. He hasn't really done much for him this year, especially to where he was drafted to be. So Murray's looked pretty good in his absence, but I think Kendricks gets that job right back. So go float some trades for him. Linebackers are kind of hard to come by this time of year. So
it appears Billy has him. So try to trade Billy for Eric Kendricks.
Billy, who do you want for Eric Kendricks?
Live on air trading as we do.
I have had him for like 5 years, and I'm just going to keep riding the wave.
Don't blame me.
Just got to do it. Well, I want to get into some temper expectations, and that is Terrell Bernard. Super phenomenal breakout season, essentially his rookie year now that Tremaine Edmonds is gone. I swooped him in pretty much every league except for one, which more props to the guy who kept trying to trade him to me. But solid games and was getting those sacks, interceptions, fumbles. Everything was looking good for him. Now he's going to have Von Miller coming back. And I just kind of wanted to break it down here. What do you think this is going to affect his role? Is Von going to play another position? Or, I mean, obviously they're not going to cut his snap percentage significantly, but I mean, are the tackles still going to be there? Are the numbers still going to be there?
I think Bernard's fine. I think when Miller comes back, he's going to start eating into Russo and all the guys on the Buffalo Bills line because he kind of just cycles out with them. I mean, Russo's dealing with the injury. He's not playing, what is it, like 40% of snaps. They just rotate those guys so much, and I think that's really what Von Miller is going to be at this stage in his career.
Yeah,
I think more of a pass rusher.
I was just going to say, I think they're going to save Von Miller as much as possible. They really do not want to re-injure him. So I think limited snaps to start out with, and then I think he's going to be on snap count at least until they get into December and January, because going into the season or going into the postseason, that's when they're going to need Von Miller the most. And that's what happened last season. They used him a lot at the beginning, and then he gets hurt for the season. So I think this is the time that I think Bernard's still going to have quite a big role. It just might not be as huge of a snap share.
Yeah, I honestly can't really remember where Von played. I know he's been everything basically in his career, but with their D-line being what it is right now, I just assumed maybe still kind of be that outside linebacker type. So interested to see. For
sure. All right. Obviously, the temper expectations of all temper expectations is Khalil Mack. Look, he had 6 sacks in one game. If you play in IDP 1 through 3 scoring, it was 77 points in one game. That is insanity from one player at 32 years old. I personally think this was just a one-off happen, kind of like that Chandler Jones game from week 1. I think it was either last year or 2 years ago, where it was like 5 sacks in the first game. I think this is kind of that. It's going to be a one-off against a battle line, a rookie QB that should probably have thrown the ball away more. I don't think this is a sign of things to come. If somebody's willing to pay a price for him, might be the time to offload him.
I paid a pretty penny on the waiver wire in the Kings Classic just because he was sitting there. I'm going to see if it wasn't like a momentum builder for Khalil Mack. We saw, with Joey Bosa's hamstring, we saw Thule kind of perform, and then, Khalil Mack just kind of popped off here. So maybe he's old. It took him 6 months to get going,
6 years, you mean? No, I'm just kidding.
No,
he's actually been a good rotational piece the last few years. But I mean, just getting 6 sacks in a game, I mean, sets him up to be a double-digit sacks easily this year. I'd like to see him continue his way in Dallas in 2 weeks. That'd be pretty freaking amazing.
Dak, the Mack attack's coming for him.
Yeah, man, Khalil Mack's coming. So
it'd be fun. It was fun to see him back, like being Khalil Mack again for at least one more time. Like any Khalil Mack fans would be happy with that being the performance that takes him out of, this league.
This is literally what every Bears fan wanted, and it happened 2 years after he was on the Bears. So
he had a good 2018.
He did start out hot and then went down a cliff real quick. So another temper expectations, or up and coming, not 100% sure. Hassan Reddick finally gets his first sack. We're excited, yet also concerned because the snap percentage, although we know that they're rotating, everyone's healthy. We kind of talked about this last week, but he finally did get his first sack against Washington. I'm hoping to see more of this, but the 50-plus snaps looks good. Those 2 games in between, not really sure why the snaps were so low at this point. So maybe nursing that thumb injury was a little more rough than I expected or everybody expected. But I don't want to say temper expectations for Reddick, but I mean, do you start him now that he got that first sack? Or is it still one of those just boomer bust like tight ends that you're like, I guess I'll go ahead and put him in. Hopefully he gets
the amount you spend on him, you have to put him in the league. Like you have to have him in because you're living and dying by Hassan Reddick with where you probably spent. But if you do have other options, it might be a matchup based situation.
I want to see another week of, if he gets another sack this week, I'm comfortable throwing him in the lineup. I had 3 goose eggs from him to start the season, so
it hurts.
Little bit pissy about this.
So
who would have thought putting 2 like monsters in the middle of the line would have stopped him from being able to get around to the quarterback?
Yeah, honestly, I thought it would help if anything. But going against Stafford this week, and then he goes to Zach Wilson at the Jets. So I mean, you assume that's a startable session. And Stafford's he doesn't really have the legs he used to. So naturally, Stafford could be a sackable candidate. But yeah, I think you're playing against Lamar Jackson. You're like, he could run into Hassan Reddick. That'd be your best bet. But like looking at Zach Wilson, I think that would be kind of the guy you're trying to go against, or Washington again in a few more weeks. So.
For sure. All right, I have at least one more that I want to get to, and that's Devin Witherspoon from Seattle. Look, he had 2 sacks as a cornerback. That is not natural. That is something that you never see in a game. He had like an all-time rookie performance from a cornerback, and it seems like the Seattle Seahawks are just good at finding quarterbacks. They had Tariq Woolen last year win Rookie of the Year. And Defensive Rookie of the Year, and then Devin Witherspoon already making his case for why maybe he should win Rookie of the Year this year. I don't know how they're this good at developing secondary players, but here we are. And although this week was fun, and last week he was good too, I just don't see how it's sustainable for a rookie cornerback to put up these kind of numbers when it's a cornerback. As Josh was saying, I mean, I know that the cornerbacks are having a renaissance this year, but there's just no way, right, that he's going to keep this up.
You gotta throw the ball to his receiver is the problem. And if Joe Burrow in 2 weeks doesn't decide to throw to his side, and Devin Witherspoon's not coming off on the edge on sacks and doesn't get connect on those sacks, I mean, it's tough to say what a corner is going to do. That's why like playing the stud corners is usually not the play. Like Marshawn Lattimore doesn't usually go out there and score a bunch of points unless he gets an interception because nobody throws to his side.
Right. Same with
Sauce Revis back in the day. I mean.
The way Seattle uses these guys, like Woolen last year and Devin Witherspoon, they disguise a lot. So I kind of like it. I kind of think he could. I mean, obviously he's not going to repeat what he did last week, but as far as cornerback leagues go, yeah, he is. I would say he's a top guy for sure, just because of how they use him.
Yeah, I found that slot corners usually end up with the most tackles just because they're already in the middle of the field to kind of help close in on the running backs and stuff like that. But the tackle numbers are just crazy for Witherspoon right now.
Well, and what's crazy is Tariq Woolen was kind of hurt the first 3 games, and then last week he finally came back and actually had like an actual Tariq Woolen game. And what did that do? It only helped Witherspoon have the best game of his career so far. So like that didn't even temper what he was doing. So I don't know what to make of it. It's very strange. Cornerbacks, they're having a moment, boys. They're having a moment.
Legion of Boom. The Legion of Boom 2.
We're not doing the Legion of Boom 2. We need to come up with like a second part of that title, like every second movie ever has.
Legion of Doom.
The
Legion of Boom 2. The Legion of Doom.
Yeah, that's lame. We'll figure out something better later. We're not creating. We're not in the moment yet. Well, getting into I don't know if this still qualifies as a waiver wire pickup, but I'm pretty sure I talked about this guy last week, and he continues to show off. So Julian Blackmon, I'm going to talk about it again. Safeties and linebackers on bad teams get tackles. They're usually on defense. They're usually ready to tackle the running back. Obviously, this game went into overtime too, so it's a little bit tough to say, oh, he got 9 tackles. How many of those were in overtime? Maybe 2 or 3, so 6 tackles. But still, seeing the double-digit tackles from a safety who historically has been okay it's nice to see. These are the kind of guys that I target and just stack up on my bench and just see what works, because you never know. Defense, I feel like, is ever changing, and this is how I end up with the Hufangas of the league. And I'm not saying Blackman, I don't want to comp anyone, but just think about it. Go get him.
No,
Julian Blackman's awesome, man. And then, I had 2 waiver wire pickups. David Long in Miami is a really good one. Jerome Baker is finally in the doghouse. I think every football fan for the last 3 years could have been like, hey, Jerome Baker probably shouldn't be starting for you. David Long seems to be taking it over here. Van Ginkel could kind of move into that role when Phillips comes back, but I think it's David Long's to lose. And then Rudy Ford from Green Bay, talking about defensive backs. Man's a playmaker. I thought Jonathan Owens was going to take over the starting spot, but it is Rudy Ford, and he has been a playmaker this year.
It's true. All right. Well, my only one, it kind of came off today's news. Randy Gregory was released by the Broncos, which means Nick Benito is your new starter on the defensive line. Look, he took the task to Joe's Bears last week, 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble. He had a great name. Nikbin, Josh, just so you can get the.
I'm trying here. Oh, Nik.
Nik. There you go. Okay. But anyway, for the audio audience, he finally is now the starter in Denver. They're really wanting to go with the younger crew here. He had a decent game in week 3, but in week 4, he finally actually had his game. You can do that against the Bears. And so now I think going forward, we will get to see what Nick Benito can do, because he's got the starting position for the rest of the season. So I can't wait to see him. Oklahoma legend Nick Benito, by the way. I'm excited to
oh my God, that's what
have him
again.
Well, but it is news because Randy Gregory just signed a 5-year contract last year, and they just released him. Like, how crazy is that?
That team is just a goddamn train.
Well, that defense is a dumpster fire, so I can see why they're trying to make wholesale changes. But still.
Well, the Cardinals' defense doesn't look great either, but they get fantasy points. That's the thing, is you don't have to be on a great defense to get 10 tackles a game or get 2.5 sacks. So thanks for bailing me out there. I could not spell that name to save my life.
I saw you struggling when you were typing, so I was like, I don't know.
Isn't Benito a type of fish? I think it is.
Should be.
Good question.
Yeah.
If it isn't, it is now. So.
By the way,
we'll
the
get back
race
to you,
for fantasy points this season, Zaire Franklin, number 1. I don't know if I saw that coming.
I actually have him in a couple leagues. Pretty fucking excited about it.
He's having the best IDP season so far, which is kind of exciting. But
he's doing everything, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I know. It's very exciting to see. You see those numbers and you think, wait a minute, isn't that supposed to be Shaq Leonard? Isn't that Shaq Leonard doing that? And then it's like, nope, no, it's not.
Who is injured again?
It's Zaire Franklin. It's Zaire Franklin.
Did he get injured again?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And he's been playing the whole year too. And I thought maybe like in the beginning, kind of ease him in, but yeah, Shaq's
at this point, EJ Speed just looks better than Shaq Leonard, which is crazy to say, but
yeah,
I don't know why they're playing this game.
This is like the year 3 of your EJ Speed crusade that you've been on, Joe.
The first 2 weeks it worked out. The second 2 weeks, though, honestly, if a defensive player ends up with 8 or 9 points, I'm not upset. I'm not happy, but I've had zeros with Son Reddick for the first 3 weeks. You think I'm not used to some bad plays here and there?
To quote the great Top Gun, I feel the need for speed.
For speed.
All right. Well, speaking of, let's just get into some struggling veterans. We've already talked about Hassan Reddick. I hate to say this, but Nick Bosa struggling, having a slow start as well. Only 1 sack on the year so far. Obviously, not a whole big tackle guy. I mean, he's making an impact there. Is this maybe a Hargrave stealing some thunder there, or getting close too quickly so Bosa can't come around the edge? Seen a lot of edge rushers this year not getting the pull that they used to. So I don't know.
What was that? 2 weeks ago, he should have had that safety on Daniel Jones, but
100%.
they called some bullshit. That would have really helped his stats there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're still starting Bosa. You can't sit him. I think Reddick can be sat, if I'm being honest, if you have a better option, but you probably don't. So once again, you kind of have to start these veterans, but it's just disappointing to see, a guy, especially if you went out and traded for him in the offseason, probably not feeling very happy about that at the moment. So
definitely not. Yeah. But Nick Bosa will turn around. I'm not worried about that.
I think you're right about that too. It just sucks because I think a lot of people expected this year for him to go back to the 18 sack, maybe even push for 20, and we're not seeing that, and we're not even close to that.
Yeah.
Plus, Drake Jackson having a year. I can't believe it. I had been holding on to Jake Jackson, and I finally let him go in a couple leagues this offseason because I was like, well, I don't think it's ever going to happen. And then now it's happening. So isn't that cool? Love that.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the absolute monster Aiden Hutchinson game. I know it's coming. He's got 3.5 sacks already, but he leads the league in pressures. He looks awesome. One of these games, he's going to pop off and have a 3, 4, 5 sack game.
Could it be against Bryce Young?
I really hope so.
We'll get into Bryce Young later. I have a whole little take about it.
Well, I mean, but in the IDP sense for Bryce Young still thinks he's in college and still thinks he can outrun defensive ends on the NFL level, because he could do it in college, because most of those guys were going to end up being like, plumbers and auto mechanics. He can't do it against NFL players. He tries to do it every week. It's hilarious to watch because he does not understand that he's not faster than them. And this was kind of always going to be the problem with him coming into the league, because he's not Kyler Murray fast. He's just Bryce Young fast. And I think it's going to be feasting for IDP players, especially edge rushers, against him, because he's going to hold on to the ball and not necessarily throw it away in the correct amount of time, which is going to lead to sacks.
There could be the Hutch sack in itself. But honestly, the Detroit Lions defensive line and just in general has been looking great. Even some of the guys that are, I don't want to say no-namers, but, not as popular as Aiden Hutchinson are getting into the fold. So you're going to see more of that. And I think Hutchinson pops off probably this week. I think you should. I mean, you're already starting him, but you should just be happy to see what he does this week. I'm hoping, at least.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the monster. I know he's doing good. I know that game is going to come, though. So buckle up.
Speaking of last year's draft class, let's talk about Kayvon Thibodeau, who finally had his, breakout per se, at least flash, the one bright spot of the New York Giants yesterday, or Monday. Feels like yesterday. That's how bad that game was. It's engraved into my brain.
Horrible.
So
it's horrible.
It's nice to see, because honestly, I feel like Thibodeau probably, getting a little upset that he's not putting those numbers up, seeing Hutch have a pretty good year. I mean, it's not like he's having a bad year by any means, but, definitely want to see him flash a little bit more, especially for a team that needs defensive points and needs turnovers and changes of plays. So,
what's frustrating is the first 2 weeks, the Giants look completely lost out there. I'm not saying they've done much better, because Daniel Jones is making his contract look embarrassing, but at least from the D-line linebacker perspective, the whole defensive perspective, they should have been a lot better than they were the first couple weeks. I feel like they're finally finding their footing, and I think Kayvon Thibodeau, in my opinion, is a trade target, because I think whoever has him, maybe they still believe, but you could potentially convince them that hey, that was just a flash in the pan. Maybe that wasn't, that you're going to trade him at your highest right now. And maybe you could be able to go get him, because I think in his career, he's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, you're not getting him from me, Billy, so don't try that shit.
Oh, does that say your name under there? I love that. I love whenever we're just doing our league and it just happens to be one of us. And we're like, yeah, man, I really like this guy. It's like, no shit, he's on your team.
It's true. I wanted to bring up Deron Bland, who is having a hell of a season as for the Cowboys at safety. Diggs went down, and Deron Bland has been all over the place, and he's only getting better as the weeks go on. again, don't know if you're going to be able to trade him after he just had that big game, but I think you could potentially talk somebody into giving him up because I think he's going to be a good player for that defense for years to come.
Well, the thing about this is, I mean, I know people don't look at it like I do, but like a pick six to me, yes, that's amazing when you have him in your lineup, but you can't bank on that ever. You know what I mean? Obviously, the 3 interceptions looking good, but if I were to, be having that conversation, be like, hey man, he's only got 6 tackles in one game. I love a good flashy player, but yeah, I mean, it's a pick six. You can't plan for that. Obviously, it's lovely when you get it though.
Yeah, the 2 pick sixes he's got I'd be trying to sell if I had him on my squad.
I was about to say, I'd buy
Really,
him
you
from
believe
Joe.
it's going to continue? Yeah, I'll pick him up.
I mean, obviously, I don't think he's going to have a pick six
like
every game, but I do think that he is a player that you can put in your lineup and have him be confident.
Hey, he's free for the taking in our league right now, so feel free to go pick him up if you guys want him.
Yeah, I'll pick him up and trade him to you, Bill.
Smart.
Are you guys?
First round pick.
I'm gonna bring up TJ Edwards here. As a Bears fan, I would not advise trading for any Bears player, but if there was one to trade for, TJ Edwards is about as solid as they come right now, playing 100% of the snaps, never lower than 8 tackles. He's not flashy. He's not getting you the sacks, the fumble recoveries, the interceptions, nothing like that, but he's very stable. And I think if you tried to trade a flashier guy to your opponent, he'd probably move him.
Yeah, honestly, I have to just say that the replacement of Roquan Smith is not easy, but with guys like this, Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, it's been working out really fine. And the fact that 2 of them can still thrive and still go get 12 tackles, 16 tackles a game is phenomenal. But at the same time, when the other team's running the ball down your throat because you're down by 30, that's going to happen. So if you got either of these guys, you're pretty happy.
We're out here looking for tackle floors, and these guys have very high tackle floors. And this week against the Commanders, I don't think that they're going to, the tackle floor is going to be even less. Oh, forgot this is coming out on Friday, so we're not even going to – people aren't even going to know that anyway. They're going to know if that happened or not, but I'm sure it happened.
It'll be out on YouTube, hopefully on Thursday, but maybe not. Who knows how my day goes tomorrow? We'll see.
Absolutely.
I love that, Josh.
And since you guys are so damn studious on your shared Google Sheets and everything, I just had 2 thoughts that I'm going to go in on my late to the party editions. Kyle Duggar played over 50% of the snaps last week from the box and got 15 tackles. My only question there is that going to continue? I really hope so, because we all drafted Kyle Duggar, when he was a rookie for this exact role. So maybe Belichick's finally going to switch him to that. And then a guy to just keep an eye on if you're in a really deep league, maybe throw him on the bench, Myles Murphy. He just got to 30% on his snap count, and he's doing really, really good work out there. I'm proud of him. So since he's tied to Hubbard and Hendrickson pretty long term, but we could start seeing more of a rotation if Myles Murphy starts to pop a little bit. So just a guy to keep an eye on, throw on your bench, see if you can find him.
Also, Myles Murphy could be used as a defensive tackle. He's a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not right. He's pretty free. I will say something about Duggar is just amazing that he's played 66 and 63% or 63 snaps each game. It's just such a clean number, and it just looks really nice on the screen. So, but yeah, so that's the IDP hour, man. Any questions, any starts? Please comment on the YouTube page. Send it to us on Twitter. Figure out a way to contact us. We will more than likely help you out. I don't want to promise anything because we might not. But at the same time, we will try our best. And that's what's important. I don't want to be like, we'll help you out, and then he sends a whole thing, and then like nobody responds. It's going to be Billy that's going to respond, but he'll tell us about it because he's really good at the social medias, which we really appreciate.
He is our coordinator.
Social media. Now he's a specialist. All right, he's a social media specialist. Let's not give him the coordinator status. I feel like we could bump him up. He's got a promotion. So, but check us out. Yeah, happy IDP hour. We'll talk to you soon. Anyone wrap this up? Billy, get us out of here.
Fly, Eagles, fly.